So welcome, Georgina. Thanks for coming to our studio.
Thank you.
We're here today doing a little bit of a chat. Podcasting is a bit new to us, so bear with us. But I thought it'd be lovely to just have an open conversation to tell us all about Wellness and Wonder and what you've been doing over the last few years, and what it means to you, and maybe a couple of experiences if you can.
Yeah. Okay. So I started Wellness and Wonder when I discovered breathwork. So as cliche as it sounds, breathwork was a lifesaver for me. I had always been like the wild party girl and the high achiever in my career as in the education system, and I feel like I was always suppressing any emotions, never wanting to come across as being negative, and putting a positive spin on everything. But obviously, we know all emotions are supposed to be felt. It's actually, I think of emotions now as energy in motion. So it's just coming up.
And good and bad is needed to go through,
Yeah. So I never wanted to be the angry person. I never wanted to be the person who disappointed. So it was just extreme expectations on myself. And I think how it actually manifested, the anger, was in terms of attacking myself, in terms of attacking my self-esteem. I had massive body dysmorphia. You don't know all of this, do you?
No, this is good.
Yeah.
Feel free to share as much as you're comfortable with, but it's lovely to hear the backstory of how it's
Yeah. So it all came crashing down when a life event happened, and I sort of just went into myself, started isolating. My friends were very concerned. This was around my 30th birthday, and it was actually my friend who reached out to a doctor.
Right.
I ended up going on to antidepressants, which at the time there was a lot of shame around, that I'd always been the positive one of the group.
So you actually felt like you were almost letting the positivity vibe down.
Yeah, and sort of losing that identity of that. And so I did go on to antidepressants, but I felt that was numbing me. So I'm sure if anybody's been on that, they can resonate.
Heard that.
Yeah. And then I discovered breathwork, and it was just absolutely life-changing.
Yeah, makes me breathe the minute you say it.
Yeah.
I'll come to why, because I had an experience with you, but carry on.
Yeah. So, I hadn't been speaking to my family at that point for potentially a year because of a situation. And from there, I was able to actually really come into a safe space within my body, because, from the breathwork, you can sort of release emotions, but from a place where you feel regulated because of the amount of oxygen within you.
Right.
And I was able to reach out to my mum. We've got a really good relationship now. So
wow, that transformative.
Yeah.
How did you learn breathwork yourself? Did you go to someone like you? Was there a Georgina mentor for you?
A Liverpudlian one.
A Liverpudlian, right?
Yeah. In actual fact, I was speaking about this yesterday. I was buying a 4-poster bed on Facebook Market, and she pulled out of the sale, and for whatever reason I had clicked on her profile and found out that that's what she did. So it's almost like I was directed there.
Fate,
yeah. Because it's quite, in Liverpool, they seem a little bit further ahead than us.
Right.
So when I first started, when I trained up in breathwork, because I had seen the impact it had on me, I didn't feel like I was finding many breathwork facilitators in our area. And a lot of people were saying, well, that's just teaching you to breathe. What is breathwork? Whereas, it's not just a breathing.
So, my experience with it before you was watching Wim Hof, the
Yeah.
Iceman, and him explaining how important it was to him to have got over the trauma of losing his wife and raising his children. And as a man, raising my own children, I thought, wow, I need to have a bit of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know where to start, how to start. Then, all of a sudden, my best friend's girlfriend told me about your good self. And I went on one of your amazing wellness days.
Yeah.
So, talk about your wellness days, because as an architect profession, I think it's just unbelievable, and how amazing just one day, one walk was for me. So, how did you package that experience together? Did you do a couple of trials first on different things, and then you just got that nice click of a walk, journal, breath work, water? Like, how did it go?
Yeah, I feel like it's just ever changing and developing, to be honest. So I'm sort of like just working out what feels right in terms of the pace for people. So this last walk we actually left the coaching session, and I just did it as a podcast type thing for them, because it seemed enough what had come up. But the reason why, all I'm doing really is bringing meditation, breath work, cold water, all those tools that people say help you regulate your nervous system, just bringing them into nature, because, we're always usually within four walls, aren't we?
Yes.
And I feel like that represents being contained as well.
You're so right. And when you say that, my experience of that is that I know when I've been indoors too much, and you need that nature hit.
Yeah.
You need that medication, if you will. And gosh, we got it on your day. So, I feel like people need to know a bit more about these days. I've not been on your amazing excursions abroad.
Yet.
That's the next step. That's the next step for me. But on the day, and you've done many of these, just talk our listeners through what happens on a given day, if you want.
Yeah, okay. So I'll talk about what we did on the most recent one, if that's okay. So we meet in a location, so it's always a very scenic location, isn't it? And it's a little bit further away from Preston, which is our local area, just because, first of all, I want to give it over to nature, whatever comes up, the emotions, whatever we voice. But I feel like it's breaking past that limit, just going a little bit further. So a lot of people say, I'm not driving an hour, or it's raining, I'm not going out in the rain. Whereas I feel like our best walks are sometimes the wettest days.
Where you feel like people have gone through an experience and a journey, and a bit of the pain with the good, for enduring a bit of nature at its, sometimes harshest, I imagine, with the cold and the wet. Yeah,
definitely. And it's also a reminder, nature doesn't work around anyone. Yeah. So, like, a reflection of our emotions.
Yeah.
Why do we try to be sunshine all the time? Or some people don't, do they? They're quite happy being set in their ways. But, so we go to the Lake District. This time we went to Hodge Close Quarry. So we went down into the quarry. We did a meditation in there, which was beautiful. Focused on our sacral chakra, which represents our feelings, and our throat chakra, which is where we speak. So it's all about I feel, I speak, with it being the January walk. I was really wanting to focus on feeling into our yes and no this time.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
So we start the new year sometimes with New Year's resolutions, don't we? And when we're setting those New Year's resolutions, we're really coming from a place of self-respect. So we're thinking about, right, we want to nourish our bodies, we want to set limits.
From a comfort point of view, or just knowing your limits of, I don't want to push myself doing this New Year's resolution that I've made because it's actually doing more harm than good, the pressure I'm putting myself on it? Or is it
more like things come up? So you might set your New Year's resolution thinking, right, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get off my phone at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be disciplined coming into the office every Monday from this time. And then people will ask to meet you, or people won't, there's other external factors which come up.
that are kind of taking you off your focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we're not coming from a place of self-respect, and obviously we need to balance that with compassion, but if we're not coming from a place of self-respect, it's very easy to put our things aside and say yes.
Yeah.
As a Western culture, we're very programmed to say yes to things, because we feel like we're responsible for other people's emotions. Sometimes we want to avoid conflict, disappointment. So when you're feeling into your yes or no, you've really got to be thinking, for me, for you, for us. So if you asked me to do something, and I had planned to go to Costa to do some work 10 till 1, and you asked me to do something, it's about me returning and thinking,
Okay.
is that good for me?
Yeah.
Is that good for you? If it is, it works for both of us.
So mutual ground, trying to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to say just how amazing I felt on the day, because for me, it was just what I needed without knowing it.
Yeah.
The whole experience, the breath work, the journaling, the conversation around the fire, and then I know you do it separate now, but the water, that was the cold water dip. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got a lot out of it, so thank you.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you did.
Absolutely. And and as a guy, I know that there's a bit of reluctance through some. Me and friends both feel the same, that there's quite a lot of good things going on. Even yoga. I like to go yoga, but it's often very feminine led.
Yeah.
But the class that I go to is very welcoming. But there's a perception of a bit of anxiety and fear from guys to not want to put the women out when they go. It's almost coming from a place of love for me and my friend that I were talking about, in not wanting to put off the women. So, through a bit going back to what you said before, really, about like putting yourself first among others. But there's a level to that, isn't there, as to not doing it for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
But I needed it and I knew it, and yoga and breath work now, if I could be more disciplined, I would love to do every day.
Yeah. And it is so important. I think as women, we've actually evolved. If you think like historically in tribes, women would face each other and speak and raise the children. So we find it very natural anyway to talk about our emotions, whereas men historically were hunter and gatherers, like facing forward.
Yeah.
And there's actually a piece of research which observes men, and if you think about men watching football or in pubs, it's still
very much facing
forward.
when they're in conversation, even rather than
sometimes.
Right,
I think that's obviously changing now, but what I know from the women is they find it really beneficial to have men there,
right?
because it balances that masculine energy.
Yeah.
Men can help women feel very protected just through like our evolution. So it's nice to see that, and nice to see men opening up as well and understanding it from their perspective. But I think sometimes men can feel quite vulnerable opening up in front of women, because are they being perceived as the protectors? And having said that, a lot of my private clients are in the construction world, my male private clients, and we spoke about mental health in the construction world. It's quite interesting that they do it behind closed doors.
And again, it's a worry, isn't it, of perception. I did a men's mental health post last year, and I was terrified actually before posting it, thinking this is for the good of other men, and I'm coming at it from a strong point of view. But you worry about people reading it thinking, is John knowledgeable on this because he suffers with mental health too? Well, everybody does. They just don't label it as that.
Yeah.
And if anything, I think it's testament to men and women out there that those that don't really talk about it, it's either that they're being very strong and dealing with it without opening up too much, but to know that it's safe to open up and how you can be improved so much more through doing that.
Yeah.
And it can be as simple as having an amazing walk and breath work and yoga without having therapy.
Yeah.
That's so
I think the biggest healer for anything is awareness, and in terms of emotionally, and in the walks when you're talking, sometimes you don't even know you're feeling that way, or with the breath work you don't know you're holding on to something. In terms of accountability, if you're actually maybe coming at things from a toxic point of view in a relationship or friendship, it's about having that time to have awareness around that concept. And so who is to say that that is just for females, which emotions are feminine and masculine? They're not, are they? So
there's a lot of blend in there, isn't there? And I think it's more socially accepted now anyway, isn't it, that ultimately physical and mental health are being more closely put together now. Like, you could go to the gym physically to get healthy, you could go for therapy or do wellness days to get mentally healthy.
Yeah.
Sleep, diet, like nature, like all those ingredients together. And it doesn't matter whether you what gender you are or what age you are, you can get something out of it, can't you?
And I think by you coming as a guy, you're almost giving permission to other men.
Yes.
I've had men in circles where they don't want to open up and share, and then another man has, and it's given them permission to say, oh, actually, I didn't think that was weak at all.
Oh, and that permission's kind of going back to caveman days of acceptance of like through different maybe rankings through the tribes, etc. And you're so right, because once one does it, you're then opening it up for the next. And I felt like when there was a social media post that went out from the walk I went on, there were 3 guys, weren't there, on the one I went on. Has that helped your male numbers on other walks and excursions, would you say? And if anything, what are the sort of what do you want from your future events in terms of gender mix?
So I wouldn't say it's helped my numbers with men. It is still very, female, about 70% female, 30% male. But what I have seen is when men come, there's not that guardedness anymore. So on the most recent walk, all the men there were very open, very understanding. They wanted to contribute. They wanted to fully commit to the breath work. And also on the tours, I've got men booking on now. And I suppose it's just about having that conscious communication where we can understand each other. Previously in my, if I look back at relationships, I would come up with a concept, make assumptions, have expectations, and not communicate that openly. And if it was communicated, it would be in a direct way, like you made me feel, and they would defend and say things about me, and it's this dance of rejection and woundedness. And actually, when we start to see each other all as humans, all with the same emotions,
blind of gender, actually.
Exactly.
That's quite powerful, actually, isn't it? In the inclusivity world that we're living in now, to say it like that just makes it a bit more free and unlynched of any barriers.
Well, if you've been in a space where you've heard in a circle people feel rejected, I can then quite openly say to you, today I'm feeling a little bit sadder, I'm feeling a bit rejected, and rather than you thinking that's a reflection on you, it's like, you can hold a bit of space for that person without advising necessarily.
It's empathy at its core, isn't it? But I think that's the thing in my industry. I feel like there's still a very male-dominated tightness to a lot of characters and I think it's getting better. And it's like you said, with adding males to the groups that you go on with a female-led group, it's actually, I'm seeing when more feminine energy is coming into the architectural profession, the construction industry, it's having the same positive effect there too. So whether, because there is a definite genome that creates a certain type of warmth and character to anything that we do, and that masculine and feminine energy comes out. And so, if there's an opportunity for that bonding and that communication to occur through a wellness and wonder day, amazing.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to go on the next one.
I know.
And an excursion, please.
Yeah. Can I just ask a question for you? If you could describe it in one word, the walks, what would you say?
Oh, gosh, one word. I think from a point of view of one word, I need two, because it was eye opening, because I hadn't realised just how powerful that breath work, the walking and talking with those like-minded people, and then the cold water dip just has physically. So it was a complete, for me, package of mental and physical, coming together.
Yeah.
In me, and I saw it in others, and that was lovely too, because when you see it happening to your best mate and his girlfriend and these lovely people you've just met, it hits home.
Yeah.
I mean, I came back feeling free. Actually, if there was one word, it's free.
Oh,
Because there was a chest tightness I had before coming to the event, and it wasn't there when I went back in that car.
Oh, that is amazing.
For me, so free.
Oh, thank you. I love that.
Well, thank you for a bit of your time today, and I'd love to come to another walk and excursion, and I hope this inspires others too as well.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.